Hello and welcome. I'm Alice Gerjuk and you're watching Head to Head with uatv. The international criminal law and international justice demand a lot of careful work and documentary preparations from lawyers and experts. Does Ukraine make this scope of work? And are we ready to prove Russian aggression and international law violations? To talk about the issue, we are joined in the studio by Anton Korenevych, Associate Professor of the Institute of International Relations and expert on international law. Hello, and thank you for being with us today.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Korenevych, so how successful is Ukraine in collecting of the documentations to prove the violations of international law and human rights and other crimes on Donbass and Crimea?
I would say that Ukraine is rather active, in particular several law enforcement agencies, in particular prosecutorial offices. They collect evidence, they give information in the form of communication to the Office of the Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. So I would say that this work is rather active because nowadays everybody understands that ICC might work on the issue of Ukraine and that ICC now conducts preliminary examination. And for the ICC to move forward to the next step, which is full investigation, Ukraine needs to prove, to show that in the territory of Ukraine there could have been committed the crimes which fall under the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court, in particular genocide, crimes against humanity and war crimes. So I would say that this work is rather active, though on the other hand I would say that it might be better to show more information on the overall control of Russian Federation over the self-proclaimed DPR and LPR.
As far as I understand, Ukraine is not ready enough to prove the crimes against humanity?
Well, Ukraine is not ready enough as it looks right now regarding the situation in Maidan. But regarding the situations in Crimea and in Donbass, Ukraine is in the process of proving that there could have been committed crimes against humanity and war crimes. And if we look at these three pillars, like Maidan, the first, so as for now, the ICC doesn't see the crimes against humanity there. But it might change its decision if Ukrainian law enforcement agencies, Ukrainian human rights activists, NGOs prove that there was systematic or widespread attack on civilians. On Donbass and on Crimea, there are no decisions by the ICC right now, so the question is open whether war crimes and crimes against humanity were committed there. And as far as we are concerned, as far as we know, Ukraine gives information on these issues to the ICC.
So the process is ongoing?
It's going on, yeah.
And what about our legislation? The Ministry of Justice has just recently issued a public discussion on the draft bill with the amendments to certain legislative acts concerning the harmonization of criminal legislation with international law. So my question is, how do these amendments differ from the current criminal code of Ukraine?
I would say that these amendments and this draft law is very important when we talk about securing law and justice regarding Crimea and Donbass and the whole situation in Ukraine. Nowadays, our criminal code, it does not reflect international standards when we talk about several categories of grey crimes. For instance, it doesn't include a separate article on crimes against humanity. So it's totally ununderstandable why Ukrainian criminal code doesn't know such a crime. Also, Ukrainian criminal code doesn't have articles on enforced disappearances, or, for instance, has a rather vague and non-specific article on war crimes. So the very nature and the very issue why this draft law was prepared is to harmonize Ukrainian criminal code with the best international standards, of which the main now today is, of course, Rome Statute. So our goal, the goal of the team of authors of this draft law, in conjunction with the Ministry of Justice, of course, was to create amendments which would make our criminal code and several other legal acts compatible with the best international legal standards.
And you're one of the authors as well?
Yes.
Could you explain what does this term of crimes against humanity mean?
This means that there are, let's say, two big categories of crimes which may be committed. The first category is called ordinary crimes, like murder or rape or sexual violence, whatever. The other category is international crimes or crimes against international law, of which today 4 categories are recognized: genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and aggression. So crimes against humanity is one of categories of international crimes So the responsibility for commission of these crimes should be more severe than for the commission of the ordinary
That's
crime.
logical.
And crime against humanity is a systematic or widespread attack on civilian population. So when some people commit crime with a plan, with a policy to attack a big portion of civilian population on a rather big portion of territory. So for us, I think for Ukraine, it's important to include this article, first of all, to show that we are a democratic country which can talk about human rights standards, because practically all countries of the world to which Ukraine wants to be included, I mean civilized world has this article, and also for us to secure the law and order when we talk, for instance, about Donbass and Crimea.
And what will this new criminal code with the new amendments, if they are approved and adopted, what will it change in Ukraine besides Donbass, Crimea and Maidan?
I would say that besides Donbass, Crimea and Maidan, this draft law creates a legal framework for making fair trial on international crimes in Ukraine. And when we talk, for instance, about relations of Ukraine and the International Criminal Court, we of course know, we talked here with you, that Ukraine recognizes the jurisdiction of the ICC, so all the decisions of the ICC will be obligatory for Ukraine. But the International Criminal Court will take only the top of the three cases to its case law. So it means that it would give orders of arrest only to several people, the most important, let's say, convictions, criminals. All the other cases must be handled here in Ukraine, and they should be dealt with regarding the international standards and regarding the standards of the International Criminal Court. So it will help Ukrainian domestic legal system, Ukrainian court system, to work in compliance with the international law standards, in particular with the provisions of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, so that Ukraine may show the world and the ICC that it is willing and able to conduct fair trial here in Ukraine. And it doesn't mean that we talk only about Donbass and Crimea. Of course, it can happen to any other examples. So
will it change the perception of Ukraine on the international justice arena?
I hope, because as far as I am concerned, the absence of the crimes against humanity article in the Criminal Code of Ukraine is a rather negative point in the image of Ukraine on the international arena. I think the same goes with the Ukrainian obligation to criminalize, for instance, enforced disappearances under the convention which Ukraine has rather recently ratified, or for instance to establish a nice article on war crimes which would be categorized in the sense, in the spirit of the Rome Statute of the ICC. So yes, I think it will be a good image, and it will show the ability of Ukraine to work with international crimes domestically. Though, of course, the adoption of this draft law also means that prosecutors' offices, that investigators, that judges shall also have some trainings for understanding how to cope with this issue. But as far as we know now, they already know what this is because they talk with the ICC. So we hope that this will not be a very big problem.
A big issue. But then why wasn't our law in line with the international practice during 26 years, during the whole period of independence?
This is a very interesting and I would say a difficult question. I think I might not answer it directly, but maybe it was because of the Rome Statute was not enacted when our criminal code was prepared. Or, for instance, the perception of several legal schools inside Ukraine were different. So this draft law, I would say that its good things, its good features are that it is prepared by specialists in national criminal law, so the lawyers who specialize in criminal law per se, international specialists in international law, specialists from NGOs, specialists from International Expert Society, so the guys who worked in the ICC, in Yugoslav Tribunal, Rwandan Tribunal, so the guys who know how it works in practice. So this draft, and of course the Ministry of Justice as a governmental agency, governmental authority. So this draft law is really the collection of inputs from different parts of expert society, and that's why we really hope that it will have some future.
Yeah, sure. We hope also, but what reaction is so far on this draft bill, and what reaction do you expect?
Well, we are very thankful to the Ministry of Justice for its support and for its bringing it into public, because actually this draft law was ready 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
was it hidden?
Well, it was somewhere in the government, I think. But the good thing is that now it moves, and now as far as I'm concerned, it will be discussed on the governmental committee in the government of Ukraine Cabinet of Ministers, for it to be registered as a governmental one. So we hope that, of course, there might some discussions arise, but we hope that this draft law will enter the radar as a governmental one.
Are there any thoughts of parliamentarians on this draft bill already?
Well, with individual parliamentarians we had some discussions, and there is a understanding that this draft law shall be enacted. Yeah, but regarding some hard talks or big discussions, no, it were mainly individual discussions. But yes, I would say that this draft law has some let's say, understanding of individual parliamentarians that it should be there.
Well, we're wishing you the best of luck in finalizing this process and eventually adopting the bill. And thank you so much for this interesting conversation.
Thank you very much.
That was Anton Korenevych, Associate Professor and International Law Expert. Thank you for watching Head to Head. I'm Oles Gerjuk. Goodbye.